Homemade pumpkin muffin. Oh, I'm loving it. I'm loving life.
I wish I had homemade pumpkin muffins.
You can have one.
Yeah, so I invited you on today to demonstrate the power of feedback. And in order to do so, Nick, as you know, I used to teach digital design. So I brought in a digital design challenge that's going to work for us on two levels because Nick, off the air, has been learning how to use Photoshop. He got the Creative Cloud last month, and he's been assisting with developing some of our content here at HRP. So I figure we'll practice your Photoshop skills, talk about the power of feedback and assessment, and make you a better designer. So to do so, we're going to focus today on layer masking. Do you know what that is, Nick?
I have no idea. I'm familiar with the concept of layers, but basically my knowledge of Photoshop is limited to that. Like layers exist, you can do different things with them. No idea what the masking part is.
So to test this out, we're going to create a movie poster. Your imagery has to be thematically representative to the movie. To keep things easier on you, but also to keep it royalty free, take everything from Pexels. There's going to be 5 different movie titles. Choose your favorite, and that's what your theming will be around. If you need to review layer masking, I also put a video of it / a text of it right here. Hey, camera 2 editing, Chris here. As a heads up, Nick didn't record any of the Photoshop footage for about the first hour and a half of this design challenge. So you'll get to see Martha Stewart style, him selecting all the images. We'll go through the creation process, and then you'll see the final product at the same time that I see it. So make sure that you please like and subscribe and leave a comment about Nick's fantastic recording abilities. Thanks.
Okay. Should I go like Christopher Nolan style here? Quantum Conspiracy sounds cool. Robot Rebellion sounds tough. Like it would require multi-limbed creatures, robots, and things to make this work. Secret Society. I'm gonna go with Quantum Conspiracy. Okay. Oh my God. I'll make it like a kids movie, like Spy Kids or something like that. Oh, that'll be cool. Middle schoolers or something who are taking a science class and they actually discover some kind of formula, or they discover some aspect of physics and science in their middle school science class that nobody has discovered before. Oh, and then when they discover it, it kind of like triggers a Men in Black situation where then like government is trying to come in and shut down what the kids are doing. Okay, that's kind of like a cool premise for a kids movie. So let's see, like, oh, this kid. Yeah. Okay. What if I just made all of this in Canva when Chris is not looking? I'm thinking about what Chris is doing with this in post, and it's just embarrassing, honestly. Really funny. The colors are gonna be all over the place. Oh, perfect.
All right, so I'm gonna hop into Floop here and showcase how I give feedback on Nick's assignment. So here is Nick's awesome class here. Imagine that this is our classroom and we've submitted a movie poster. Here is Nick's assignment that he's turned in. The Quantum Conspiracy. Oh boy. Let me showcase how to use Floop's tools in order to give some good feedback on this assignment. So it's really simple to use. I'm going to click on different spots, and that's going to allow me to give feedback on that location, which he can then improve upon. I can see all of his previous assignments here. I know it's version 1. I'll also be able to see whether or not he reads my feedback or not here in a second. So I know like right away that chances are that I'm going to have to give this feedback on multiple student assignments. So here I can write a comment that I can reuse. For example, in this case, the object wouldn't be blended with a soft brush as they're not fading into the background. If Save to Bank is selected and I hit send, you can see here on the right side, I have a comment bank that if I need to do that again, which I'm going to go ahead and do so like maybe right here, I can simply drag and drop this to there. And you can see now I have a new spot there and maybe up here too. So that way I know that it's in 3 different spots, and you can see that it says that I've done this 3 times. If I had more students, it would showcase the number of times I've done it. Go ahead and make sure I give some positive feedback as well. This is great positioning and repetition. There's something weird going on. It looks like we missed a spot here. I also think this probably needs a custom font. Nick knows how to do this. Use the font to install a custom font that's more fun for this. Good job matching the orange with the orange of the background. And just for demonstration purposes, I'm using the free version of Floop because this is what most people are probably going to be using to start off. But do note that if I had the paid version enabled, I also could record audio and also save the recorded audio to the comment bank. And I could also use freeform mockup. So if I had like a tablet or something where I had a pencil, I could just write on here, which is really useful for like math problems or something like that. This also supports, like I could do first_name like that, and it will pull their first name in. So it feels a little more personalized, you know, as well as you can use math text by following these instructions that allows you to give some math feedback. So some cool stuff there. That's probably more than enough feedback for this round. We'll see how it goes. So at this point, I can also enter a general comment. I'll say like, this is an excellent start to a action-packed movie poster. Love the color choices and overall format. See my comments. And then I'll give this a smiley face. On Floop, I don't have to actually enter in a grade, which I like a lot. I could also copy and paste emojis here. I could write in a grade, a number, a letter, whatever, but I'm going to put a smiley face. What's cool about this is now I can go here to this tab, the conversations tab, and you can see all of my things here, which Nick could also click on, and I can as well. If I click on it, it will show me on the left where that feedback is. So like use the font, that's right there. And you can see here, Nick has already looked at my feedback. It says seen by student, seen by student, seen by student, because that means he clicked on it or clicked on it over here. When he submits it, it'll become version 2, but I'll always have version 1 here to reference. We could also run this cool peer feedback thing here, which I'll clip in some segments of as I'm talking about it. If you have a classroom of folks and you're running this all at once, you can see what types of feedback students are giving, like green, yellow, red, what types of feedback they're receiving, and then students can enter in comments very similar to what I just did. So you can get a lot of feedback all at once in a very quick fashion. It's a really cool feature.
Okay. Looks like I've got feedback. Let's see here. Oh, okay. I need to use the hard brush. Yeah, that's right. All right. Feeling good about this. Okay. So it just seems like the biggest pieces of feedback that I'm getting are to use the hard brush instead of the soft brush. That's kind of why he looks like he's all feathered. This is what I was saying just a little bit ago. I wanted to change that anyway, so I'm excited to be able to do that. And then I gotta fix this as well. Yeah, I can kind of see that. And then maybe shrink these down a little bit and find some cooler fonts. Use the font. Okay, nice. I matched the orange. That's good. All right.
To briefly describe as Nick is working on his assignment, how this worked for me. Here's anime me. But down here is the basic logistics for how my class worked. You can see here, students would submit their assignment on Floop. I would give them instructions, obviously. Or, if they want, they could submit a different assignment if they suggest one. Then I would give them feedback on the assignment without a grade. I'd always put in either a smiley face or maybe like a blank expression face, sometimes a sad face if it like wasn't submitted properly or I couldn't read it. The student then incorporates their feedback and resubmits it. Usually that was in like a week window. We'd have workshop days in class where we could actually work through things together. And then I would provide a grade. Importantly, I selected someone's grade based off of how well they incorporated the feedback. So for some folks who were really talented already at digital design, they would submit something that in a typical class probably would be an A. It was pretty darn good. But I wanted to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to improve and it wasn't just a one and done assignment. So for students that did really well, I would push them to go slightly further. They would certainly have maybe less things to do in terms of feedback on their assignment, but they would still need to incorporate that feedback for an A. Same exact thing if a student was really struggling, I could tailor that feedback to focus on those foundational skills, leave 5 or 6 different points on there, kind of like what I just did with Nick. If he does all those things, he gets an A. And students really appreciated the fact that the pathway to achieving an A was made very transparent, because they knew, hey, if I turn in this assignment and I do these things, I will receive an A. I allowed them to resubmit up to 3 times. Rarely did students ever go up to 3 times total. But if a student was like really struggling with a certain element, I wouldn't let them move on unless they understood the basics before we continued. Assessment is not the final point. Assessment is the point at which we're also learning. In my case, students had to receive grades. I taught in a public school. So the system worked for me in my context with grade reporting and what we had to do, while still doing our best to ungrade and not just do one and done style assignments.
All right, I need to be done. Okay. Export that. Export as. All right. So what did you think, Teach? Let's take a look.
I'm curious now, before we even get to, I'm not going to look at it yet. How did it feel? What was the process like? What was the vibe you got?
I will say once I had a vision for what I wanted to do with it and kind of the story for the project, right? Because it would have to have, the film would have to have some sort of plot. So that kind of took some time, and then thinking about the stock images and like the layout. But once I kind of had that vision for it, then it really was just about how do I use the tools? And then it clicked.
It's not really about the tools. It's about your ability to know even what to create in the first place. Like the skill is in knowing, how am I going to represent the theme? How am I going to source those images? How are the images actually going to be placed? The tool itself, in terms of like using the pen tool and all that kind of stuff, even though technical skills are important, in my opinion, is the easier part.
Okay.
So you
having
got
the
through
vision
the
for
themes.
what to do with it.
Right. Wow. Look at this font. God, that font's so much better. And even like this like little like line, because you didn't add these lines, right? These like orange.
No, those are in the
lines
image.
that was already in the image.
Yeah.
Because like, it looks like it's part of the font almost.
Oh, it does. It's going right through the middle of the
Kinda
U
cool.
and the first part of the M.
Right.
I didn't plan that, but I did. To my credit, I did kind of like, I framed that background pretty deliberately. If you see that big building kind of cuts through the half of the image there, and I was going to put the kid in the foreground on the half of that image. So I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Those are the first 2 pieces that I found. So I was kind of cool. It's kind of glad to bring those things together.
I would say, so I'm kind of like, I want to demonstrate the tool as we're talking about it. The font looks so much better going across the edge as you're looking through it. If I were going to make a slight adjustment just to make this look more 3D here, you can actually, you could raster this text, which you can rasterize it, which allows you to then edit the layer as if you were editing an image. So like you could put a layer mask on the text, for example. You could then like make this 3D. So like hide the part of the text where the bar is, if that makes sense. You could layer mask right here and then just take this little part out of the M. So it looks like it's behind the thing.
Now, did you notice I did add like a drop shadow to it to kind of make it pop out from the image?
I will tell you that if I were giving feedback on this, I would tell you to get rid of the drop shadow. But
okay.
Solely because you wouldn't have a drop shadow on the sky. So like
maybe you wouldn't.
It's confusing because like it makes it look like paper, because you could do a drop shadow on paper if we thought this was text on paper. But because we're kind of blending it together, it's weird. I'm not crazy about the drop shadow, but for right now, we'll have an artist disagree.
I thought I was being clever. I was being clever.
This font is cool. Having the other thing here, I'm not sure. I didn't. Again, we didn't have all the prior knowledge to know how to do this, but I would change the leading on this, which is the vertical space. That because like by default, like that looks a little too space. It's kind of like what he discovered made him the
So I wanted to make it almost like a Spy Kids kind of thing, where it's just like normal kids going about their life, and that's where this kid is, right? And he discovers the quantum conspiracy. And what you see in the foreground then is that kid in the future, the cyberpunk version of that kid. And then he's got his little partner there in between. So that's kind of cool how you have and you have the kind of cutting across from the top vertical to the top left to the bottom right, kind of in that line. I like that movement. That was kind of cool.
If I go into the versions, I can see your old version and your new version side by side, and I can access your old version and see all the feedback on there. I have a notification up here which says that, hey, someone probably responded. So if I click on this, you said on it, which is good. But I could also respond to this, and you could also have seen on your UI, like seen by teacher or whatever, so you know if I read it or not. Now, did you have a chance to? I noticed that there's a feedback thing here. I made it's a really long text statement because you didn't have the prior knowledge on the pen tool.
I did it.
Did you attempt to do this?
Yeah.
You did.
Look on the new one.
Let me go to the new version.
On my version, it's there.
I would typically just ask you to resubmit it until you got an A. But you can see, version 3 just popped up. It popped up while I was talking to you. So here's version 3.
Funny.
Here's all the improvements. Pretend you did some of those other improvements as well that were in the thing. So now down here, I could write in here like, this is fantastic. This is fantastic work, ... And I'd explain why. And here I could write an A. I could write a 10. I could write a super happy face. My class at the end, I had to give a grade at the end of the course. So I would just put like a 10 in here. Done. And this syncs to Google Classroom too for your roster and stuff. So you could implement it that way too. And that's it. And then you could see that kind of thing. I like it because you can see growth over time. Like I can go in here very easily and see version 1, version 2, version 3. I mean, this is simple, but I could right click and save it. Like I can save your work and I have access to it really easily.
I just want to emphasize the fact that going into this 2 hours ago, I had no experience with Photoshop, right? Like I knew what a layer was, but I didn't know anything else other than that. And then 2 hours later, as a result of a pretty bare bones assignment, right, ended up creating something that I'm like legit proud of that. I think that's really cool. I think it's well done for somebody who had 2 hours in Photoshop total. And it really makes me want to keep going. I want to keep doing more of it because I, now have these tools in my toolkit, have some certain ideas. And it's like, okay, well, what can I do with it next?
Like not, again, getting a little infomercially here, but it's free. Doesn't cost anything. I only use the free tools. If I was using the paid version, I could also leave you audio comments. I could draw on it. But for the free version, you got the text. You could have unlimited classes. You can put your kids on this tomorrow. It doesn't cost you anything. You can just start using it and see how it functions. And it works with Google Drive, so you could also import like documents. You could do images, obviously, as we demonstrated here. Yeah, you could do photographs that you upload. There's a bunch of different functions you could use this for a variety of classes.
And of course, the research going back to Ruth Butler says that, right, the power of feedback over grades, students look at the grade and move on. With the feedback, they actually begin to incorporate it. And so what we're thinking about here is that, like, of all of the things about school and grades and grading, all of those things are pretty optional. The only thing that isn't is feedback. Feedback is the only necessary part for growth. Everything else is optional.
Equally as important, it avoids the situation where you spend, first off, it speeds things up, but you also don't have to spend 4 or 5 hours giving feedback on papers or images or whatever it might be for kids just to put it in their backpack and then they never read the feedback because they just saw the grade at the top and then you move on. It has you restructure elements of how you give assessment to focus on that feedback, to slow down a little bit of time, to hone in on that, have everybody improve, and then move on to the next step. So that way we don't lose out on the fundamentals, but we also have a chance to actually get better at the things that we're trying to learn, which is the whole point anyway.
Remember to see The Quantum Conspiracy. It's coming out in theaters soon. What he discovered made him the most dangerous kid on the planet. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for following my journey through Photoshop tutorial land with Chris. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and be sure to follow Floop on LinkedIn. Take care. Oh my God, it's so funny that my design was Spy Kids influenced, my movie poster, and we were using Floop.
It really
I didn't even
is.
think about that. That's subconscious.